Hello everyone and welcome to 40,000 Layers. In this show I'm Tashnor, hello. I learned to paint a whole bunch of minis and hopefully get better at them, and Sheepy, aka The Wandering Inn, teaches us about Warhammer 40k lore. So thank you very much to the folks over on patreon.com/40,000 Layers for supporting the show and making it happen, and they are Sleepy Dragon Man, Doozapin Dan, Thornlord, Mark, Particularly Money, Damned Man, Ramona, The Mushroom, Retrograde Vector, Azean, and Grey Blue One. So thank you very, very much. If you want to support the show, head over to Patreon, check it out. There are exclusive posts. There's posts for everyone. There's a custom Discord channel for patrons, and patrons can vote for what our monthly topic will be. This month we are continuing on with the Imperial Guard, and here is my Sentinel that I'm continuing to paint. And let's just hop right back to it. I think we were going to talk about the different regiments this time.
So, the Imperial Guard. Essentially, we've kind of gone over the everything of it, the kind of like the broad strokes of most of it, and kind of talked about how it's giant and it likes to smash things, and from there.
Mm-hmm. Throw bullets at people, very effective strategy.
Very effective when you have laser guns.
Yes.
So we're going to go into the regiments, the specific regiments.
Right.
And the one we're going to start with.
I was going to say, first of all, how many are there?
Oh,
so how many are there?
so how many Imperial Guard regiments are there? How many snowflakes are in a storm?
At least several.
Yes, that is how many Imperial Guard regiments there are.
Okay,
at least several.
How many very well-known named regiments are there?
Well-known, I would say 20 or so?
Okay.
Maybe more? I want to say 20 to 50.
It's
because it depends a little bit.
It like if they have the Acadian jungle fighters, for example.
Catachan jungle
fighters. Jungle fighters and Acadian
shock troops.
Shock troops.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a half of two groups correct.
Yes.
Then how many of those kind of spring to mind, I guess, for the planet?
So I would say, off the top of my head, there is the Cadians, the Armageddon Steel Legion, the Death Corps of Kree, the Mordian Iron Guard, the Catachan Jungle Fighters, the Elysian Drop Troops, the Valhallan Ice Warriors, the Vostroyan Firstborn, Tanith First and Only, Talon Desert Raiders, Harakone Warhawks, Terax Guard. There is the... Oh god, what are they called? No, that's the Imperial Fists. That's not a... I'm like, oh yeah, of course, those guys. There is the... I think that the Aegis, I think there's that's where I'm going to start to run into issues.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a shit ton of them. Oh, the Attila Rough Riders.
And the Krieg.
I said the Krieg.
Oh, well.
I if I forgot the Krieg, then like the Krieg and the Cadians are probably the most famous. And maybe the Catachans.
Yeah, I would have thought the Catachans, because they're still minis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Of those. Whereas if you search, I judge everything by minis. Obviously, that's my side. Yeah, there's still Catachan Jungle Fighters, Command Squad, Heavy Weapon Squad, Sniper. There's quite a lot of Catachan, actually. But if you look up Krieg, there's None.
Yeah. Well, Krieg is more of like an internet meme as opposed to a
Okay.
fan favorite. Like, there'll be a whole load of people who know Krieg who've never played the tabletop.
Right.
And we'll discover why the Catachans and the Cadians and the Kriegs are so popular.
Okay.
But we'll start with the Armageddon Steel Legion.
Good.
Good to know all about them. So someone you may know who came into contact with the Armageddon Steel Legion is an orc by the name of Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka.
I know Gaskell.
Yes, and a member of the Steel Legion is someone called Commissar Yarrick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Armageddon is a hive world,
Mm-hmm.
which is just industrial wasteland. Like, so much pollution, fucked up hive cities. And at one point, it was the place of two apocalyptic wars with the orc war boss Gazgul Thraka.
I actually did know that about Armageddon because we went there one time in our time travels in tabletop.
We did, and we played out the second invasion, where it went very differently
Yeah,
because
I mean,
there was a giant space whale and also Necrons, which there are no Necrons on Armageddon.
and the orcs thought they were part of the Imperium. It was a weird day.
It's always a weird day.
But yes, I do. I know that the orcs were there.
Yes. What is less known in general is that there are actually three massive world-ending fights on Armageddon. The other one was with demons and chaos.
So, like, is it just widely accepted that there was two wars for Armageddon, but not a third?
Pretty much. The first one was the demon one, and it's kind of been mostly scrubbed from history.
Oh, because they don't want people to know about demons.
Yeah.
Of course.
So,
Okay.
but the Armageddon Steel Legion, especially now with all of the Gazgul coming back a second time and invading again and having a real fucked up fight, they're very good at fighting orcs, and they're just a very good legion in general. Good at siege, attrition, essentially holding out and inflicting more casualties than they suffer, and also suffering very high casualties. One of my favorite 40k books is called Hell's Reach, which is about that third war for Armageddon. And it involves the Black Templars, the Salamanders, a couple of other Space Marine chapters, and the Armageddon Steel Legion, and the kind of the PDF, but not really. Oh, and the Titan Legion gets involved as well, the Mechanicus.
Okay, everyone's getting involved.
Oh yeah, this was like a whole big thing. Yeah, the Hell's Reach is an amazing fucking book. I really like it. And the Armageddon Steel Legion is pretty cool. I don't think there's too much to highlight. I think it would be fun to talk about the wars for Armageddon at some point.
Okay.
I also think it would be fun for us to read and talk about Hell's Reach at some point.
So many books to read.
I know. Like I like The Infinite and Divine as well is such a good book, but I can give you a little bit. I'll send you a picture of the Commissar.
I did get The Infinite and Divine the other day, so.
Oh. Well.
It was very, very, very reasonably priced.
That's good.
So it was like 99 pence on Kindle at the time.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm getting that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's gone back up now, though,
I,
unfortunately.
I do think that the audiobook is a lot of fun too. I know you're not a big fan of audiobooks.
Yeah, I just get distracted.
I think that's fair.
I can't absorb anything. Hence this new setup.
So the Infinite and Divine has really good narration from
Mm.
the narrator, which is why I'd say also like you get I would say personally I feel a little bit more of the comedy in the audiobook for Infinite and Divine because you get the inflection a bit more, and I don't know the way it's narrated is quite funny.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a serious book, and it's a really good Necron book. You get some decent like Necron backstory and characterization and all of that type of thing. There's another Necron book that's like, I mean, this isn't about the Imperial Guard at all, but there, there's another Necron book that came out that is called Ruin, I think, or Rain. No, it's Ruin. There's a book
Twice
called
Dead King
Ruin.
Ruin.
Yes. So that's the first book, and apparently that's really, really good. And it goes into the history, like including, I think there's a couple of scenes where they're actually going into the forges to turn into Necrons. So it's while they're Necron tears.
Ooh.
I think you'd find it very interesting because it really goes into the lore of the Necrons a lot and gives a lot of detail. So,
I do love Necrons.
well, that's why I suggested those ones. But
It's on my list now. You will.
Yeah,
When I'm allowed to buy books again, we'll have a
we'll,
look.
we'll see about the books. They're a lot of fun. I think it could be interesting to talk about some of them. But yeah, the first war for Armageddon, um, is like not much is known about it in terms of like from the perspective of people in the Imperium, because it was mostly demons of chaos. And I believe it was the chapter master of the Space Wolves, and the Space Wolves themselves that took a lot of the hit on that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think the Grey Knights and the Inquisition got involved too, so that's always fun. And then, oh, sorry.
Is it always fun?
No, it's never fun.
Okay.
Then Gazgul got involved. Like, God, it must be like 400,000. No, sorry, 4,000 years later. No, 400 years. Yeah, like 400 years later, Gazgul like turned up and invaded.
Brilliant.
And essentially Armageddon had to hold out, not by itself, but pretty much by itself. And that was the instance where Commissar Yarrick essentially held the line at Hive Hades,
Mm-hmm.
and was like pretty much the only one who survived out of an entire hive.
Mm.
And it was such a difficult fight for the orcs that after they like overran Hive Hades, they didn't have a chance to win the war, and then Space Marines turned up.
Oh.
So they basically like fought a retreating battle and ran away.
I mean, the Space Marines are no fun, are they? So.
Yeah. To give you an idea of how much Yarrick affected that second war in Armageddon, during the third war, 50 years later, when Gazgul came back, he dropped an asteroid on Hive Hades and completely destroyed it.
I'm just like taken aback by it. Just dropped an asteroid. It's fine.
Yeah, like he like literally as they were invading, he's like, oh, and also let's blow up Hive Hades. And the funny thing is before that happened, when the orcs were on their way, Commissar Yarrick was like, abandon Hive Hades. Like, we're not going to defend it at all. And everyone was like, but it's a symbol. And he's like, no, it's going to get destroyed this time. We don't want to put any forces into it. So, like, the destruction of Hive Hades, a little bit of a morale hit, maybe. But just having Yarrick there was enough to be like, yo, what up?
Oh, it was Yarrick's decision. It must be a good decision. Yeah. Okay.
Well, to give you an idea of how respected Yarrick was, even the like leaders of the Space Marines listened to him respectfully and took his advice.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so that's Yarrick, and honestly, the space. I think during the war for Armageddon, the third one especially, a lot of the Space Marines. I wouldn't say they developed a respect for humans or the Imperial Guard necessarily, but definitely for the Steel Legion, the Armageddon Steel Legion, because the Steel Legion really did really has put up multiple difficult fights.
Yeah.
And really held out.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a little bit more apparent in Hell's Reach than just in a general overview. Should we talk about Cadia? We should probably leave Cadia to a little bit later, to be honest. So the Katachan. We'll hold off on the big three. The Death Krieg, the Death Corps of Krieg, the Katachan, and etc. Elysian Drop Troopers are a regiment of assault infantry who use what is essentially called a grav chute.
Right.
That is it's like a parachute, except for it is kind of. I'll send you a picture.
I'm guess I always assume there's some sort of spacey force field nonsense going on.
It's much more of a jetpack.
Well, then why shoot then, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's essentially the idea of a parachute, but with, it's like gravity.
But do they use it to jump off things?
Yeah, so
it's not a parachute then.
Well, a grav chute contains a generator that emits super sensor fields that can counter the force of gravity at the particle level, and two small promethium-fueled thrusters on either side that provide some directional control. Essentially, it's not a jump pack. You can't use it to jump or to move fast distances. You can jump out of an aeroplane.
I will allow it.
I appreciate your generosity. Yeah, they're fairly elite troopers. They tend to drop into hot zones and use rapid assault vehicles, sentinels. They'll drop these as well, by the way. Sentry guns, the Cyclops. Cyclops is a fun little explosive dude.
Oh.
It's as I remember, although don't let me look it up because I'll be wrong if I'm not careful.
That would be for the best.
It's kind of the size of it's like a remote controlled car, except for a bit bigger.
I looked at minis.
Oh, okay.
It's adorable.
Yeah, it's
it can fit inside another tank.
Yeah, you put it in a tank and then it rolls out, and it's remote controlled detonation, so they just drive it as shit and blow it up.
That's so cute.
When I played Dawn of War, that was one of the tactics. You build some of those and just drive them around, blow them up.
Wow. Yeah, sorry, I'm like, they're so tiny as minis. It's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. They throw some of those about.
Yeah. Because the drop troopers obviously drop in, they can't use the bigger heavy armor and artillery. So they tend to work a lot more with the Navy. Just purely because that means they can use the planes, the shit, all that type of thing to back them up.
Yeah.
And yeah, being able to drop in is super useful. You take the enemy by surprise by just like dropping into an area, taking and holding it, so other forces can move in.
Yeah.
I would say they tend not to campaign solo, whereas someone like the Armageddon Steel Legion much more likely to do something like that.
Okay.
Or much more able to, at least. There's also the Harakone Warhawks, who are honestly much the same. Like, I won't go into the Harakone Warhawks, partly because they were never a thing when I was playing the tabletop version.
Right.
So I don't really know that much about them. And also because they seem very, very similar to the Elysian drop troopers.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be going basically over the same.
Repeating the same thing. That's fair. Mm-hmm.
Details. However, the next one up are my favorites. They are not in the what I apparently am calling the top 3.
Your favorite, but not the top 3. Interesting.
Well, the top 3 popular,
Yeah.
like who everyone knows, is the Mordian Iron Guards.
Okay.
So the Mordian Iron Guard, they like to be prim and proper. They are the typical, like, if your boots aren't polished, you're gonna get fucking shot.
Okay.
Very drilled, very, very heavily trained. They're from a hive world which is tidally locked, which means half of the planet is always dark.
Oh.
And the other half is bombarded with the star's radiation.
Yeah.
Which means that all of the human settlements are on the dark side of the planet.
Right.
And one of the names for Maudio is the world of eternal night. Mordians are grim, unfunny, and the regiment only cares about discipline and duty.
Okay.
Very, very loyal to the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And
as is proper.
In combat, they will line up in ranks and just fire volleys precisely timed as they advance until they get within bayonet range, and then they start bayoneting shit.
Okay. There's lots of bayoneting?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things that's happened with the Mordian Iron God quite a few times is enemies will be like, oh, these are like dress guards. These are like these are untrained, pretty looking soldiers who've never fought in their lives. To give you an idea of how fucking hardcore the Mordian Iron Guard are, probably be best to talk about when Chaos invaded.
Their planet?
Their planet.
Oh.
So, it's the Battle of Maudio.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what happened was during the summer, which on even the dark side of the world was still really hot.
Mm-hmm.
There was a group of people who decided to make a deal with some weird dark gods.
Oh.
They began a spell and started sacrificing people to fuel it.
It's not on.
And started making pledges and making deals. And essentially they did it to get power, to claim the planet, to all those type of things.
All those fun, power-hungry
Yeah,
motives.
the mm, the soldiers on Mordia, the rulers, whatever you want to call them, the people in charge started to notice strange gangs, criminals, even like instances of mobs like cannibalizing people.
Ooh.
And then monsters flying around started to turn up. People disappeared, all of this kind of shit. And then suddenly, um, the entire world shook and the warp itself opened up outside the planet.
Oh, okay.
And Chaos Space Marines descended upon the planet along with demons coming out from sewers and buildings and just like spewing out into the streets.
Um, I'd be like, this is not, this is not very good, actually.
Yeah.
I was thinking chaos just turns up everywhere, but yeah, that's a kind of extreme nice example of like it's
Yeah, this is a very extreme example of chaos turning up. And with no warning, the rulers of Mordia were like, yo, astropaths, contact anyone and say help. That's all we need. And the astropaths, the first couple, their brains literally melted.
I was thinking this is dangerous for them in this current situation.
And then a group of their best astropaths got together and essentially tried their best to send a message out to get them help.
Mm-hmm.
And their minds melted. Yep. So who knows how that went, because they all died. At the same time, the Imperial Guard, the Mordian Iron Guard were fighting Chaos Space Marines and demons and their own population.
Yep.
And what the Iron Guard did is they went to meet these like gibbering forces of demons and Chaos Space Marines, and they formed a line and they started firing.
Okay.
Until they started taking obviously like casualties as soon as they started like to lose. Which happened reasonably quickly. Like, you know, they were outnumbered and overpowered. So what they did was they gave the order to slowly retreat.
Okay, yeah, back away.
They slowly retreated to the capital and abandoned the entire planet, fighting all the way. So chaos ravaged the entire rest of Mordia, and the Iron like they just went crazy and just destroyed it all and killed everyone and worse. The Iron Guard prepared the defenses of the capital, which was called Vanandra. Literally every building became a bunker. Every significantly tall and like strong building became a like core nerve center for the defense of the area. They strapped like explosive, you know, equivalent of like claymores and TNT to every single street. Literally walking down the street, you'd get exploded to just into oblivion, into a mist. And they're like, all right, come at me, bitch.
Let's go.
And guess what? They did. The Chaos Space Marines came first because they were, you know, like more organized to a certain degree than demons and stuff. And the Iron Guard were prepared enough to essentially, through fire discipline and traps and defense, like prepared defenses, they managed to repel wave after wave of Chaos Space Marine attacks.
Yeah, like that is a bad look for the Chaos Space Marines.
Mm-hmm.
They probably weren't very happy about that, I imagine.
Until, and like they managed to hold their defenses really well until a literal army of cultists came out of the sewers and service ducts of the capital.
Great.
All around.
The betrayers,
Yes.
right.
Some of them were naked and only had like a stick of iron in their hands, and they just threw themselves at the Mordian Iron Guards.
The heck?
Yeah. I mean, this is like chaos worshippers, you know, like
Yeah,
they've sold their souls.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because they weren't expecting this attack,
Mm.
And the chaos brought demons and chaos space marines and everything with them this time. There's even like the greater demons of Khorne, you know, the bloodthirsters.
Mm.
Those dudes are scary. Because of that, obviously it essentially weakened their defense, and they were like, okay, so they started retreating again, like fighting street to street, building to building, just like killing as many
as they could on the way, yeah,
of chaos as they could, but still retreating because they didn't want to get outflanked or anything like that. And very often, a unit or a squad or a company of Iron Guard would hold the line so that others could retreat, get cut off, and then just fight until they were all dead.
Yeah. Aww.
And the other Iron Guard are like, okay, that might be our turn next, but let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
Keep withdrawing, keep fighting, extract as many casualties from the enemy as possible. At this point, it would be fair to say, for literally no reason. Because there was no way to win this fight.
Like, where are they even going? Like, what are they even gonna do when they get there?
They're retreating to the capital, to the the governmental palace, essentially. Mm-hmm. So eventually, they got to the palace itself, the last point in the world where there was any type of defense left, and that's where they all turned. They got all of their heavy weapons out, they got all of their troops out, and they stood there as greater demons were like going through the ranks of, you know, just ready to charge.
Yeah, it's just gonna be barrage after barrage of enemies, so...
Yeah. And they charged, and the Iron Guard fired, and again, like, firing discipline, the discipline of the Mordian Iron Guard, and the heavy weapons, obviously, like, everything helps. They just mowed down demons, Chaos Space Marines, cultists, everyone. Until finally, like, they just started to be too many. And they were slowly overrunning positions. So the captain's like, okay, let's retreat again. And they started like moving back up the palace steps in formation, firing and firing and firing. Eventually got to like the top of the steps and prepared for the last stand, essentially. However, there was no way to know, but the spell that essentially allowed the demons to turn up was waning.
Yeah.
The power that brought the influence of the Chaos Gods to Maudio wasn't as strong. And as they're like preparing for the final charge, the demons start to dissolve.
Wah, wah, wah.
And the Imperial Navy start to appear in the sky in space above the planet because they were essentially like wreathed in darkness
They
by
turned up.
the summoning. Um, and the Mordian Iron Guard had actually managed to hold out long enough
Mm-hmm.
for the psychers of the Imperium to essentially weaken and dissipate the spell and the summonings and all that type of thing. And basically, the reinforcements, the message had got through,
Mm-hmm.
and help had started to turn up. And by the time it was there, and the psychers had started to work against the summoning, the spell that had brought everything here. Yeah, they managed to get rid of it.
Oh, they did so well. As is expected, you don't get a reward for doing your damn job in the
Yes.
Imperial.
And after that, their their willpower, their discipline, and just their ability to, even though at all the way through the war, it was basically agreed that there was no chance to win. The fact that that didn't matter and they just kept fighting anyway,
Oh.
essentially was so impressive that people compared them to Space Marines.
Yeah.
And ever since that, they've been considered one of the most elite units in the Imperial Guard.
Yeah, they did a great job.
And I love that story because it is one of the instances of like the Imperial Guard being badasses without anyone else really helping.
Yeah. Well,
Like, yes, obviously
they were helped to survive at the right end.
the
But yeah,
the
the holdout and the actual fighting and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
the victory
absolutely.
itself, there was definitely help, but them being badasses, there weren't like Space Marines all over the place helping out or anything like that. It's just the Mordian Iron Guard being like,
Sure.
no, fuck you. And everyone listening, including you, Tash, keep in mind I am biased because I love the Mordian Iron Guard, but I think that's a very cool story.
I think it's good. It shows ones that can stand and do their job and everything, unlike some of the traitors coming
Yeah.
out of the sewers. Dreadful.
I just love the fact that every time they get like presented with a situation where they're like,
Can you imagine like that utter ridiculousness of like there's
yeah,
chaos, like demons everywhere, and there's space marines. Like that in itself is a big deal, and then sudden sewer humans.
sewer humans come out and like fuck up your defenses, and the reaction is like looking around and going, this isn't a good situation for us. We need to extract more casualties from the enemy. Okay, everyone, we're going to retreat
Again.
and we're going to move back and form a new defensive line. And everyone just like looks at their commander and goes, okay, and then they just do it. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Mordian Iron Guard. I think I'm gonna get shit for giving the most attention to them, but there you go.
You know what? Sometimes that's how it goes.
It is. So you've also got the Praetorian Guard. It's a place called Pretoria. It's a hive world. They send you a picture, but they have a very colonial, like British redcoat vibe to them. You know, kind of explorer from that time.
Yes, I see. Mustachio.
As I remember, I think these are the ones who have a flintlock las gun.
Oh.
So it's like a one-shot lasgun, which you have to like reload.
Yeah.
It's not. Again, they have issues with orcs. They're quite well disciplined and very brave.
Everyone has issues with orcs.
Yeah. Then there's also Gaunt's Ghosts, also known as Tanith First and Only. Uh, kind of known as the Tanith First Regiment, but they're also the only one. Because the regiment, there's about 3,000 of them, I think.
Okay.
The 3,000 of them were rescued before their planet was destroyed.
Oh, so they're never going to get reinforcements from it.
Yes.
Right.
Essentially, they're great at stealth reconnaissance, very good light infantry and scouts, but yeah, they weren't that lucky. Their whole planet was destroyed, and they aren't super impressed about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to ask a question that is irrelevant.
Okay.
But I know that their planet's gone and everything, but if they
Yeah.
chose to sort of reinforce their numbers with training and like their progeny, like would that they'd be added to their own ranks, right?
Yeah, I think it's possible that they do, but they have a reputation now for being small and elite. So I think I would guess, I'm not 100% sure. I would guess that their recruitment process would be like the SAS. You know, it's not a massive military force, it's an elite military force.
Right.
And that's how they are utilized now.
Okay. I just think like never accepting new people into your ranks is a terrible idea.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
So we've kind of talked about the Talon Desert Raiders and the Valhalla Ice Warriors.
Yeah.
Essentially, Talon was a nice planet that got virus bombed by the Horus Heresy Chaos, and ended up fighting Chaos Rages. Valhalla got hit by a comet.
Yeah.
It was like a lovely paradise world. Got hit by a comet. They tried to destroy the comet with like defense lasers and stuff, but
this is what the planetary defense is kind of for, right?
Yeah, well, so they were like, "Hey, there's a comet incoming. Let's destroy it," because you know it's just ice and rock. Like it's happened on other Imperial worlds. Ice, rock, just shoot it and it will break up and kind of burn up in the atmosphere. However, this comet was predominantly made of iron, which not so much.
So much with the exploding.
Most of it fell in the ocean.
Which will have made tidal waves.
But also a kilometer-wide fragment hit the North Continent.
Brilliant.
Creating a massive dust storm that covered the entire planet for quite a while. As well as hitting the planet, changed its orbit, because it moved it a lot further away from the sun.
Oh, that's slightly more of an issue.
Yeah. Which destroyed the ecosystem and turned it into an icy wasteland.
Yeah.
So, not only is famine going to be a massive issue, as there's no real viable farmland, a section of an orc war turned up.
They weren't hiding in the comet, were they?
Possibly. I've never read an account that says the orcs shot that asteroid.
Okay.
But the orcs can do that, and they do that. So maybe.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a bit untrustworthy of comets and orcs.
Yeah. The essentially like a damaged section of an orc war fleet decided to attack Valhalla for the food that they had.
Yeah.
The Valhallans did their best to hold out because like their hive cities were beneath the ice and heated, and they're essentially pushed all the way back to the storerooms, their food vats.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, a very nice story. Well, not really, but comparative, like yeah. The Valhallans managed to defeat the orcs by essentially using their ice boring machines, like the ice digging machines, to like draw the greenskins down a ice tunnel
Mm-hmm.
and then use the ice boring machines to cut into that tunnel and attack them from the sides.
Oh, kind of cool.
So very often, along with them, kind of like flanking them, they would also like burn and melt and drown orcs and stuff.
Yeah, I imagine the boring equipment would be quite effective as a weapon in its own way.
And ever since that invasion, the Valhallans tend to get sent to places with orc problems.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because they got very experienced and good at fighting orcs and their knowledge of orc tactics. They're also a little bit insulted that the orcs invaded their planet, so they're like, send us to orcs, we want to kill orcs.
Yeah, I mean, a blood feud with the orcs is probably not going to go well for you overall.
I mean, the Valhallans are doing okay with that. Yeah, they're very grumpy people. There's also the Vostroyans, the Vostroyan Firstborn Regiment, where, as I remember, yes, that's right. During the Horus Heresy, Vostroya didn't answer the call. I believe they refused, saying that they could serve the Imperium better by manufacturing weapons rather than sending troops to the army. The Imperium was like, okay.
They just let it go?
I mean, they had bigger problems to deal with.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't, you do what you're told.
Yes. And ever since, the Vostroyans have been so ashamed of that failure that they have provided their firstborn son to the service in the Imperial Guard ever since.
Of course, right. Okay.
It's changed a little bit. Now it's much more a tradition and an honor to serve and fight for the Emperor.
I was thinking it must have changed at some point over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is now tradition for the firstborn son to serve in the Imperial Guard, specifically in the Vostroyan Firstborn Regiment. There's a bit more detail to the refusal and etc. But
yeah, they were like,
it's a cool little idea for Okay, so that's sort of apologies about the sound of the
mouse scroll. That's okay.
Yeah. There's also the Tarex Guard. They're a elite regiment. There's a whole Scholar Progenium thing. They tend to be like commissars and officers and all that type of thing.
The best of the best.
There's not a super load about them. They're not as interesting as the Mordian Iron Guard because the Mordian Iron Guard are the best.
The badass.
So, next up is the Death Corps of Krieg.
Yeah.
So, there is a death world, well, it's a death world now, called Krieg. There was a rebellion on the planet against the Imperium.
Oh.
Like 1,000 years ago or so. 1,500 years ago.
We don't forget that.
Yeah. Where essentially, so it didn't go like it kind of ground to a bit of a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, it's essentially it looked like the loyalists were going to lose, and there wasn't any help coming from the Imperium, so they bombarded their own world with nukes,
Okay.
and then spent about 500 years fighting in trenches between each other.
Yeah. Okay.
After the nukes and 500 years of trench warfare,
Mm-hmm.
Krieg was literally a radioactive husk.
Yeah. It's like, how is anyone alive to continue?
You've seen the Kriegsmen, right? The like the
Mm.
gas masks and everything.
Yeah.
Um, that's why they look like that. That's why that's their uniform,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what their world is like. Uh, and the death core of Krieg, um, were so upset about the treachery against the Imperium, like the ones left and everything, that it's kind of turned into a bit of a meme, I guess, where essentially they want to die in battle.
Yeah. I guess it's like an
So,
honor, and
well, just yeah, it's
they get to die not of radiation, right?
okay. So this is what Krieg soldiers, guardsmen recite as they go into battle. In life, war; in death, peace; in life, shame; in death, atonement. And that's their what they recite when they go to fight. So it's like, hey, if we die, we're peace and we're atoned.
Good to have a sleep.
Yeah, they're not happy boys, and they do have a tendency to like a very common scene. I would say, well, not a common scene, but something that's very believable is like a Chaos Space Marine dropping into a squad of Kriegsmen.
Uh-huh.
They're not going to have a good chance of like
Surviving and killing him. Yep.
surviving, but very likely, even before the Chaos Space Marine starts attacking, you could see a Kriegsman just pulling a pin on a grenade and blowing everyone up to kill. And they'd all be happy with it, like as long as they killed the Space Marine and died in combat, or just
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, that works,
That works for us. Brilliant.
perfect. Um,
Like,
I'm
there's one option for every problem.
yeah.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
uh, I'm trying to decide whether to do the Catachans last. I think I have to do the Cadians last.
Okay.
So the Catachan jungle fighters,
Mm-hmm.
they live on Catachan, which
Do they?
is a death world.
Everything's a death world. You need to stop ruining planets.
Well, so one of the reasons everything's a death world, it's not.
I
But
know, it forges them into brilliant warriors of renown.
yes, it's very easy to be a badass on a world that is consistently trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
The Catachans on Catachan tend to live to, I think the average life expectancy is about 34, 35.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, the one of the apex predators, I think it's an apex predator. It may just be a creature. I don't think it's an apex predator. I think it's just one of
the normal ones.
yeah, just a regular animal you get on the planet.
Okay.
It's called a Catachan devil.
Oh.
That is theorized by tech priest, Adeptus Mechanicus, biologists, scholars, let's say.
Just add
to
us onto words, and I'm sure it makes sense.
Yeah, biologists. It's theorized to have maybe been an abandoned tyrannid species that became like sentient and evolved itself. If you don't like centipede scorpions,
I don't mind.
Then don't look at a picture of a Katachan devil.
I'm gonna look it up. Katachan Devil. Oh yeah, I think
I
I've
think I've
googled this
pointed you.
before.
Yeah, I think I've pointed you towards them before.
Yeah, because there's been reference of them. Yeah,
I think when we talked about the Tyranids, I referenced them.
and I think actually it was mentioned in Glitch or like after show of Glitch
Oh, possibly,
or
yeah.
Mr. Tickles.
Right, yes, I probably did. I would definitely reference with Mr. Tickles, actually.
So yeah, I've seen this before.
So a regular, fully grown adult will tend to be about 30 meters long.
Yikes!
Yeah, size of a small train.
You can't even conceptualize that sometimes.
Look, the train sized,
Yeah.
like a small train. Um, there are other. Oh God, I need to tell you about the fucking frog.
Frog?
Yeah. Give me a second. I can't remember what it's
Okay.
called. Katachan. Katachan
I'm gonna
frog.
frog. Ooh.
The Katachan barking toad.
Yeah, I just saw a picture of it.
Is considered the most poisonous creature in the entire galaxy.
Ooh.
Fortunately, it is extremely rare. Can be very unpredictable in movement, one moment hopping around, next hiding underneath dark rocks. They tend to like shady, dark, dank places and don't like to be disturbed to an extreme degree. This reclusive amphibian has a unique self-defense mechanism. What do you think it is?
It hypnotizes them.
That's a good guess. But no, it's when threatened or feeling threatened, it emits a dense cloud of toxins that kill everything, like all life, within a kilometer of where it is.
Wow, including itself?
Yes.
Oh, god damn it. Why is everything Why is that the solution?
It is so the poison it has is so potent it can melt and penetrate space marine armor.
Wow. Okay, we don't mess with them then.
No. And that's Katachan. Like, I mean, like those are like just animals on Katachan.
What is the most feared animal on Katachan?
I'd say probably the Katachan devil.
Okay, but I mean, like, if that's
I'd
not even
guess.
like an apex predator or anything, what is considered one?
I'm not 100% sure it's not.
Sheepy.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have the complete details.
Gosh, the dog made me jump then.
Yeah, I heard that.
Sorry.
There's also there's also like a whole load of essentially Katachan is covered in aggressive jungle.
Yeah.
So it has like the Shardrak spines. Literally will go through armor and things. Just like if you like brush up against it, it takes your fucking leg off.
Oh, brilliant! Just don't live on Katachan, really.
Yeah, there's
in the 40k universe.
there's a barbed like kind of bush that is venomous, and if it like scratches you like fall down dead instantly. And so you can always tell when there's a bush around because of all the bones that are collected around it.
Oh, well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. But obviously, enough people and animals need to die next to the thing until you get the idea. On Katachan, they use it to make wine.
Mulled wine? Did you say?
The venom.
Brilliant.
They use it to make to like distill wine. Like you distill it and create wine with it. So, there's also like a vine that can travel like I think 10 miles a day.
Just traveling around the planet.
Just go looking for victims.
Oh,
That's Katachan.
yeah.
To give you an idea, there was I think it was a sergeant fighting Tyranids, and he killed like either a gene stealer or a Tyranid warrior. You know, one of the like fairly dangerous Tyranids. And in the middle of the fight, like he killed one of them and like looked at it, spat on it, and said, "I've fought more dangerous things on my planet."
Yeah. It's so bad.
You know,
They are badass. It is why, obviously, they get their big names. But
yeah. Another good idea of what the there's a really funny story about commissars. I'll see if I can. I don't really want to paraphrase it. Um, there's a joke about the Katachan commissars where yes, so there's a group of commissars sitting around and one of them is like a Katachan commissar, one of them is a Cadian commissar, and one of them is a Elysian drop trooper commissar. And they're talking about who has the bravest men and who has the best soldiers. And the Elysian drop trooper commissar looks around at one of his troopers and goes, "Look at this, guys. Hey, private, go jump out of your Valkyrie without your grav chute." The private like salutes, jumps onto the Valkyrie, jumps out the Valkyrie to his death, like happily.
mm-hmm.
Um, the let's say it's Cadian for the sake of argument. The Cadian commissar like turns to his Cadian troopers and says, "Hey, you, go take a walk out an airlock." And the Cadian like jumps up, salutes, and says, "Yes, sir," and goes to an airlock and like just jumps himself out of space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Katachan commissar is like, "Bitches, please check this shit out." And he like turns to his Katachans and goes, "Hey, you, jump in the air." And the Katachan like looks back at the Katachan soldier, looks back at him and goes, "Fuck you, sir." He's like, "See, I've got I've got the bravest troops."
Yep, absolutely the bravest. I knew.
Which is a fun little story.
Aww.
Yeah, the Katachans, the orcs like fighting the Katachans. They're not necessarily, specialists, but the orcs really enjoy the Katachan knives, which are like these massive, like 20-inch, like Rambo knives.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yeah, the Katachans do a lot of fighting Tyranids. I think it's the whole jungle world thing. And also, they get a lot of practice fighting things that are very similar to Tyranids.
Yeah, it was like, it might be a Tyranid already. Spit my own tongue there. Might be a Tyranid already.
Yeah.
So, send them to do that.
Before we go on to the final, which will be the Cadians, do you have any thoughts or questions or things about the regiment so far?
No. I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
They are diverse in their own ways as well, like generally what they're fighting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they are all under the same umbrella in the end.
Yeah.
But it makes me think a little bit of the Eldar paths.
Yeah, there is that to it. And it's a very common thing in 40k to have like a faction, a sub faction, and then a lot of diversity within to like it sells minis, doesn't it, to have all these cool different things.
Wow, that's that's the take you're gonna say.
Well, I mean, it's also very cool. Like, it's so easy to have your favorite Imperial Guard regiment, and also your favorite like craft world, and your favorite
Yes, yeah.
Space Marine chapter.
I think that's fair, and I think like leaving a lot of it sort of open to making your own or making something out of it is
Yeah,
totally sensible too.
but like some of the stories have similarities.
Mhm.
You can't deny the ability of Games Workshop and its writers
Yeah.
to really grab your passion and attention with some of these stories. Like
Yeah.
I love the Mordian Iron Guard story.
Yeah.
Even the other ones, like, we glossed over a whole load of details, but there's some very cool stories in the other regiments too. Similar things. It's not always planetary defense, like their own planet, but
Yeah, going out and doing battles but elsewhere, but like getting the overview of them with their own planet makes sense.
and speaking of planetary defense and heroic stories, may I talk to you for a moment about Cadia?
Oh, please do.
So Cadia, I'm gonna gloss over quite a lot of the detail. Was essentially the core target, I guess, for the 13th Black Crusade, led by Abaddon the Despoiler. Who Abaddon's basically like the Horus replacement. He's kind of the only Chaos Space Marine leader really focused on fucking with the Imperium and being an actual threat.
And his paint is, do you want to take a guess?
Black.
Yes.
Because of Black Crusade, but also I believe he started a like Chaos Space Marine Legion. I think they're called the Blackguard, or let me have a look for a second.
That's it.
Also, he's called Abaddon the Armless, partially because he's had 13 crusades that have all failed, so he's like harmless.
Oh, so he's armless. Oh.
But also, his mini was very famous for losing its arms. They're the Black Legion. Yeah,
The Black Legion. Okay.
Essentially, he used to be the first captain for Horus in the Sons of Horus when they were still loyal, and now they've renamed themselves to the Black Legion, and he's the Lord of the Black Legion. He's also scary as fuck.
I'm just looking at a mini now. Oh, it's little. Oh, I like it. I'm like, look at the skulls on the spikes. And that's a Tyranid one, and then I saw the Space Marine one. I was like, oh boy. Oh boy.
So that's Abaddon, the Armless. If you search Abaddon the Armless, you'll see a picture of him without his arms as well.
He does have a big old claw situation going on.
Oh yeah, he has lightning claws.
Knife hands.
Those were Horus's, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a whole story there. He's not super loyal to Horus at all. Don't worry. He's kind of an asshole.
Okay.
But essentially, the target was Cadia because they had these pylons on Cadia. Turns out later on that they were Necron tier Catan pylons.
That's heresy.
That is heresy. And the reason that Abaddon wanted to fuck with them and possibly destroy them is because it was part of a Necron tier or Necron plan to close the warp.
Okay.
So the Eye of Terror, that huge rip in reality that lets chaos come out.
Yep.
That was happened due to the birth of Slanesh. Yeah, that could be closed.
Okay, well that'd probably be helpful for
yes,
a bunch of people.
It's especially seeing as Cadia literally sits like on the border of the Eye of Terror and has spent the entirety of their history fighting chaos. They're like a fucking bastion of you know, Imperial defense.
We are tired of chaos. Let's close this bloody.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So essentially, they are like a little fortress world, basically, like a big middle finger to chaos. They've been invaded loads of times. They fought loads of times. Eventually, with the 13th Crusade, that changed. Because Horus attacked and betrayed, and there's a whole big story there, which we'll have to do an individual episode on. And essentially, they were holding out, and Abaddon got pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't think he could capture the world. He didn't think he could capture the pylons. Also, a Necron dude turned up and was like, "Hey, I can help you with these weird pylons because they're Necron pylons." And he was kind of chatting with
what was his name? What was
his name? Was Trazen the Infinite.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Fun story. Trazen kind of turned up a bit and helped out a little bit with the whole battle and stuff. He was throwing out. I think he threw out an Inquisitor who he captured like centuries ago, and he was just like, "Here's an Inquisitor and some Space Marines." You know, like threw a Pokeball and they just came out.
Inquisitor, go!
Very, very much so.
Oh.
He did also save the hero of that battle and leader of the Cadian forces, who's called Lord Castellan Creed.
Why?
Well, so he saved him as he was about to die by basically saying, "You're not going to die here. I'm going to put you in my Pokeball and we're going to leave." So, saved is an interesting word. Uh-huh. He basically captured the Lord Castellan of the leader of Cadia and basically the guy who saved Cadia. He's like, "You're mine now."
Let's take that. Oh, and I'll put him in the collection. Yes.
Warhammer 40k to Trazen is quite literally Pokemon Go.
Yeah, he puts him in the box.
He just wanders around capturing things he likes and just.
I would be surprised if he didn't have one of the toads.
Yeah, he probably does.
Like, how would you even capture that in like a reason?
Well, he's a Necron. He can maybe deal with the poison. I don't know.
That's true, but I'm sat here like, but if it melts through Space Marine armor.
Necrons do, especially Trazen can transfer his mind to different Necrons.
Yeah.
So he could like trigger it with a different Necron, wait for it to dissipate, and then go in and be like.
He was just really nice to the toad.
Yeah.
Convinced him.
So, are you done? Do you want to get in this? In this Pokeball?
Snacks in the box.
You want to go in this box?
I put some leaves in there. There's a little pond.
So, because of all those things, Abaddon decided to crash his giant space fortress into the planet.
Okay, yeah, reasonable response.
Essentially destroying and breaking up the planet, so it was tiny little, like, sections of the planet floating off into space.
Oh, bitch.
The Cadian forces, when they saw this was happening, evacuated the planet, and the Cadian shock troops, the regiments, stayed to defend the evacuation areas.
Mm-hmm.
As the planet was drifting off into space after being broken apart and destroyed, the reports from the evacuation ships said that even as bits of the planet drifted off by themselves into space, they could still see the flashes of lasgun fire.
They were still fighting. Mm-hmm.
They were still fighting on the broken planet, drifting off into space, just still holding their world. Aww. Which has led to the most famous, and if I didn't mention it, I'd be probably executed for heresy by literally anyone who knows 40k,
Mm-hmm.
the phrase for the Cadian shock troops, which is the planet broke before the god did.
Yeah. I have heard that from you, I think, already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the Acadians.
And that's, the Imperial Guard regiments. Not all of them. There's way too many to go through, but those are some of the notable ones.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the Imperial Guard are all told my favorite faction in 40k.
Interesting.
I have a very strong soft spot for the Thousand Suns. I love the Thousand Suns. But the Thousand Suns, while super interesting and awesome, are one note. The Imperial Guard are so varied and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something to be said for just a regular person. Like, it's...
Yeah, dealing with all the things they do and all the ridiculous grimdark monsters of the universe.
There's something very inspiring and awesome about a superhuman mutant with like two hearts with multiple hearts fighting a giant space monster to death and like killing it and being victorious and being like, I am a superhero. When you take that perspective and that story and put a regular person with no advantages and basically in the setting a shitty gun, and they stand their ground and fight to the death because, that's badass. That's heroic. So, yeah, I vibe a lot with the Imperial Guard.
That's fair. I just kind of think, like, for me it's fantasy, so I want to not hear about humans.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I appreciate it, and I think it is really interesting in seeing all the battles and everything, but I just kind of jive with something so fantastical.
Yeah.
Like that it's beyond. Yeah.
And that's essentially us talking about all the factions.
Yeah, that is the Imperial Guard.
We have a few minor factions, but well, I don't want to say minor. People get pissed off, but
some others that have not been mentioned.
I think at some point we could probably do a little tier list.
Oh.
For you of your favorites.
Me, okay. Yeah, we could do that. Like,
maybe something for the patron.
You're adding more things for me to record here. Like, let me look at my calendar.
But come on, that I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, no, it would be. That'd be fun. Okay. Is that everything you want to speak about today?
Yeah. That's there we go. That's the end.
The Astra Militarum.
So going forward, everyone who's a patron, you'll be able to vote on just like all of the factions. So essentially, it'll be like Imperium, Orcs, Tyranids, etc., etc., etc. The one that gets the most votes will be the first episode. The one that gets the second most votes will be the second episode for each month. So go and vote. Essentially, even if the thing you want isn't first, you may be able to get it second.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And next month is
Harlequins and Space Marines.
Harlequins and Space Marines. So we haven't talked specifically about the Space Marines yet, have we?
No. We have spoken about different.
Some of the chapters, but not all of them. I do have a couple still recorded and held back. But I hope that you're enjoying the new format. Yeah.
Let us know what you think. I don't know how much painting I have done at this point, but I will finish that up. Probably not as much as I would have liked to, because it's a big mini. But I have plenty of minis to work through, and yeah, it's painful.
Hell yeah.
It's painful in a way. You might have noticed I've put all my paints into dropper bottles. Nightmare, but it's worth it at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, let us know what you think. And thank you very much for watching. Again, if you want to check out the Patreon, there are posts for everyone, posts for exclusive patrons. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.